Okay, we're going to remove the feedback lever from a K3V112 regulator. This is my first attempt at making a how-to video. What you're going to need is an 8mm Allen wrench, possibly a screwdriver, some small snap ring pliers, a pick, a strong magnet, and a slide hammer if you have it, with an 8mm screw, or in my case I don't have it, so I'm going to use some vice grips and a hammer. So what I've determined is that you only have to take one cover off. We'll take the rear cover off. Now, these screws are already loosened, so should be pretty easy. Just pop these loose and out. When there are some springs under here and some small pieces, so when you take this cover off, be careful that they don't fall out in such a way that you can't remember how they go back in or see how they go back in. You see the spring starting to put some tension on here, so I'm just going to put my thumb on it and keep it from bouncing off on me. Okay. Now this one has 2 long screws and 2 short screws. You want to make sure you get them in the right spot. And that's the cover. And as you can see inside here, we've got a spring. We'll just take that out and set it off the side. We'll get our magnet here, and we'll pop this little puck out, and a little sleeve will come with it. So maybe. We'll put these off to the side here. And, there's a couple O-rings in here. If you haven't, this is a new unit, but if you're repairing the regulator, you'll need to replace these O-rings. Okay, the feedback lever is held in by 2 plates. It's got a plate here and a plate here. These plates index a spool on this side and a spool on this side. They're held in with these plugs. Now, the only plug you really have to worry about, you do have to worry about both of them, but is the top plug that has the pin in it that holds the bottom of the feedback lever. So we'll pull that out. This is where you need the slide hammer if you have it. Take out these snap rings. Okay. And then I just use one of these screws and screw it down inside like that. And because I don't have a slide hammer, I put my vice grips on it, clamp down a little bit, and just give it some taps. And it pops right out. And as you can see, there's the pin that holds the bottom of the feedback lever in. So I'll use the same screw and do the same with this one. Just screw it in. Get my vice grip on there. Give it a couple taps. And out it goes. And notice this one does not have the pin on the bottom. So if you look down inside there, we now have that little plate. I'm not sure if you can see it. The light might not be that great. It's loose. So I'm going to take my magnet, I'm going to get it down in there. I'm going to pull out that plate. Set it off over here. With that plate out, you now have to look down into this top hole. And if you look down in there, all the way down in, not sure if it's going to show or not, but that's where you find the pin that actually holds the feedback lever in. And that pin is a slip fit, but there's pressure on it from this spool that has a spring on it. So the best way to do it is to push in on this spring until you release some tension on the feedback lever. Then you reach your strong magnet down inside there and pull out the pin. And once you have that pin out, then the feedback lever just pops right out. So that's how you removed the feedback lever from a K3V112 regulator. Now we're going to put it back in. It's just the reverse process of taking it out. However, it gets a little tricky when you're putting this other plate in and putting the pin back into the base. So what you're going to have to do is down in the bottom here, you'll see where this spool has it's flat on both sides. That's where it's going to index the feedback lever. Make sure that you paid attention to how you took the feedback lever out. It goes in with the notch towards the inside, like this. Big flat spot to the outside. So you're just going to do the same thing. You're going to line this up and slide this feedback lever in, and the pin on the feedback lever is going to index the big hole right here on that slot. And so you're going to put it up like this, and you're going to line that hole up with the spool, putting pressure on the spool, the spring. And you're going to line that hole up, and you're going to have to get it just so. You're going to get your pin back and slide it down in there. And this is where it gets tricky. Oh, my feedback lever moved. And there we go. Then while you're pushing down on the magnet, release the tension on the spring, and it'll hold that pin in place, so when you pull the magnet back out, it leaves the pin in. So now we got the feedback lever back in, and then we're going to take this plate and we're going to put it back in. But you're going to notice there is a slot in this spool right here, and that's where this pin indexes. This pin right here. Slide it in here and make sure that the sometimes it's better to use the magnet to put it back in, or not. This is where it gets really tricky. There we go. So I've got the plate back in, and the pin is indexed with the spool. So now we got to put it back up like this and take a good look at it. And we're going to line the hole in the bottom of the pin up dead center in this hole. And it's not cooperating with me, so I got something wrong here. Oh, it fell down. See? Pain in the butt. This is where you might need the picker, the screwdriver. Let's get in there and pull this back up and out. Looks like I got her wedged in there a little bit. Might take a couple attempts. It is kind of delicate work. There we go. So I'll put that back in there, like so. Hold it with my thumb. Okay, that's pretty much lined up. So I'm going to hold this in place in that notch with my thumb so that the pin is still indexed in that spool. And I'm going to line this up as best as I can with the exact center of this hole. That looks about right. So I'm going to take this one that has the pin on the bottom. I'm going to put it in. Find the screw I used earlier. We're going to hopefully index pin. Now this is where you either made it or you didn't. It's either going to make it or not. So we'll get it past that O-ring, and look at that, I got it first time. So it went right in. So I'm going to verify now that my pin in that plate is indexing the spool. You can see the spool moving out here. So I am indexed in there. I'll just give it another little tap. Make sure it's seated. I'll take the other one, I'll do the same, I'll put it back in. Just a little tap. Of course, replace the O-rings. Then we'll put the snap rings back in. Okay, that clicked in. The other one. Okay, those are seated. Make sure that your spools are still moving and your index properly. Got spring tension on your feedback lever. We're good to go. So now we'll put these back in. Like I said, keep track of these little pieces. This little sleeve goes right in here. This little plug goes right in here. Spring goes back over here. We put the plates back on. Make sure the O-rings in there. Of course, replace all the O-rings. Can't stress that enough. And then we'll get our screws back in. That one's giving me a hard time. There we go. That one's got it. This one's going in fine. Then you just tighten up the screws and properly torque them. I don't have the torque specs. I could look them up, but it's probably going to be something small in the inch pounds, since they're 5mm bolts, or 8mm, I think. I don't know. Can't remember. So there you have it.